The Blue Lock community does not like the ranking for the top 23 playing in the Under 20 World Cup, so here is an updated top 10 best players or ones deserving of the highest bid for their Neo Eagles League performance, and very important information as we enter the next stage of the story, with this being voted on by the Blue Lock subreddit thanks to this mad lad. So let's have a look and break down if these people are right. So at a bid of 250 million, alone in rank 1 position, we have our protagonist Isagi, with for reference Rin at 248 million in second. So if this happened in the manga, I would have been fine for the most part. Isagi had a next level performance in the final match, and better team showings or value you could argue. However, as it currently stands, I still view as the objective better striker, who was going crazy during their match as well, and just outright having the most goals during the league is a major factor to consider. They are indeed current rivals and will remain as such in the Under 20 World Cup, and likely only two within Blue Lock that could be considered new Gen 11 level or closest to that right now. But some arguments made include Rin being around this range, and while having a great performance, Isagi may be slightly worth more than that amount, and highlighting that Rin is pretty much unstoppable at his peaks, but due to his self-sabotaging nature, he's limited to some degree. Pretty fair claims, with the large majority of the community agreeing with these two being rank 1 or 2 regardless of the order. But third place is where it gets controversial. The winner of the community bid was Barrow with 200 million, something that was actually very one-sided in this community, as you see here, most people agreeing that Barrow should come in third. And within the actual story, as we know, Barrow came in 4th while Shido got 3rd, causing a lot of outrage from the broader community, arguments about who was better, and something that will without a doubt continue moving into the next arc. But during the Neo Eagles League, Barrow scored 5 goals and was one of the most improved throughout. This is potentially due to the way his team was set up and his goated master as well. But as a whole, I agree with this placement based on what we saw during the arc. A true monster. But when going on to 4th place, we have something very interesting. Some people were saying Shido should get around 190 million, close to Barrow, as the certified rank 4 within current Blue Lock. But he did not win this bidding. We got Batra receiving 178 million, and many others agreeing with this range, with fair points being made. He scored more goals than Shido, with 5 as a total like Barrow, and was the sole carry of his team realistically, getting insane improvements and even ending Nuggy's Blue Lock career, like he's done with many others already. Introduced as a unique monster and has risen to rank 4 from the view of the community, something that I think is also fine based on the arc itself, while still having the personal view that Shido is a better or wields more potential as a striker, just getting outshined by the others on his team and potentially his recent opponents as well. Kunigami was indeed able to shut him down during the recent match, with many taking points away from Shido due to having Charles assisting him, who was overpowered in his own regard and the sole focus of their master Loki during that arc. But now in 5th place, as expected, Shido with 160 million. The top 5 strikers within current Blue Lock has been highlighted, and while I don't exactly agree with the order, based on what was demonstrated during this arc, this is incredibly fair, and these guys do indeed make up the top 5 best strikers within the Blue Lock experiment right now, with us seeing that most people agree with Shido's canon 160 million bid, just feeling like other players deserved a little higher than him. managing to get 4 goals and remain as a major threat regardless of having an uncaring master, and Rin taking a lot of shine away from his team as a striker on that side. Additionally, when looking at the narrative, since he was introduced, Shido is pretty much the rank 2 within Blue Lock. Now he's likely in 3rd place, at least from the author's view, which may be highlighting what's to come next. But an insane threat who honestly just didn't get much focus as the 4 above him during the Neo Eagles League. But I think this top 5 is pretty definitive. No serious arguments for other players removing any of them, and is agreed on by the story itself. Furthermore, if we compare the top 5 currently to the top 5 recognized by Ego prior to the start of the Under 20 Japan game, you truly see how much has changed. Of course, we have 2 people still sitting around the top, but these 3 may have fell off to a degree, but make sure you watch to the end of the video for all of the information. But the next 5 is where the real arguments may begin. You have people like Kunigami, Chigiri, Rio, and some others being thrown around, but similar to the story again, in 6th place with 100 million we have Chigiri. He was the carry of his team and managed to score 3 goals alone for the most part. Technically the most important factor within Blue Lock for a striker, and remains a threat in all matchups due to his speed, bringing us to rank 7 and 8, which was the first draw or the community being undecided. Legends throwing the name Gagumaru out there, Kunigami boys still fighting strong, but the 2 who got a bid of 80 million each is Rio and IQ. An interesting pick, but fair for the most part. Rio didn't have the best showings later on, but when we first saw him, he was highlighted as overpowered with his evolved ability and is a major threat to anyone. We currently have the big question of what's going to happen in regards to his future now that he's lost Nagi, but it could result in a huge buff considering his leaving words to Rio. But based on the arc itself, he did actually score, so you have to give him some props. And IQ, who was still a monstrous player without a doubt, top 2 defenders within the story. And to those of you wondering, I mentioned at the start of today's video that this is a breakdown of the top 10 best players, not just strikers per se, but of course, due to the nature of what Blue Lock is, those characters get preferred treatment, with the overall rule remaining, if you have a unique design, you're probably staying around and will be a major asset in the future. And the likes of IQ is required for Blue Lock to stand a chance in the Under 20 World Cup, and can't wait to see him play alongside the other top tiers. But moving on to 9th now, we actually have Atoya at 78 million, and technically when looking back at the post, Karatsu should have been the winner, who in the end didn't make it into the top 10 when it comes to the community bidding. Kunigami came in 10th with 75 million. But Atoya, to those anime onlys, didn't really do much as we saw in the recent season, and for quite some time was still doing nothing. But by the end of the arc, he managed to score 2 goals with some assists throughout. Likewise with Kunigami, the wild card. While Karasu didn't score his own goal, he was still holding down his position unlike anyone else, being the ultimate team player once again, and honestly I loved all of his moments. And these 11 make up the current best within Blue Lock right now without a doubt. I kinda expected more from Kunigami throughout the entire arc, considering the insane wildcard reveal, but to be fair with him, he was able to shut down Shido in the recent match, something I doubt really any other characters would be capable of doing, and his future within the Blue Lock experiment is definitely going to be pretty interesting, and had a pretty wild rise back in the story considering where he was prior to this, and is still an ultimate goon. But of course, I can't forget to mention that the likes of Gagumaru scales above all. But looking at the direct comparison between the fan and canon version of the ranking, you see that those in the top 10, top 11 are the same players, just some slight position and bidding amount adjustments, meaning the, I guess, perceived controversial nature isn't really there on reflection. But let me know down in the comments who you think is going to shine in the next phase of the Blue Lock experiment, and make sure to check out all the other content here on Mysterious Chat.